Hello, John.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, Simon Harris has finally called the election and it's going to be held on the 29th of November.
Uh, Unusual. I think they could have went to next year. I thought they'd go to full term. But so the election is called now. I express the view that I have and Christian TV Ireland would have is that how can anybody vote for Fine Gael under Simon Harris? He was voted into by the Fine Gael party. He wasn't actually elected as such. So he was elected by them and supported by the like of Fianna Fáil and the Greens that were in this coalition, all friends together in power. And I expressed a view that I wouldn't want to vote for any of them, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, or well, no, mentioned Labour, but the Green Party. I didn't mention them, but I wouldn't vote for them in a fit, never would, because of what they inflict on mankind with their idea about the climate and a whole people, a lot of young people suffering from the illusion that they can have some effect on the climate, as if like they can control the weather, which is ridiculous. But this election, and I was approached by pro-life individuals out there, would I stand, because they want to have in every constituency somebody that's pro-life. But I think there are people of that calibre standing, so the people will have a choice. Now, how does it manage to sort of have a voice in this media that we're saddled with in this country? They all appear to be singing from the same hymn sheet, i.e., left. And they good news is apparently a commodity that they never heard tell of. It's all doom and gloom. And President Trump, that was elected by the people in the United States, they seem to have a difficulty in accepting him.
Mm.
Because we haven't got this balance of in the media, this balance of opinion. Apparently, the media is controlled by just a few individuals, so it's their views that count, and they seem to be going down that road. So the employees mightn't have the freedom that they might otherwise have, and including in the media, the main television and radio, RTE, and you've that the independent radio stations, and they're not so independent because they're owned by a few individuals rather than they're not just independent each of its own entity, which is the way they should be, because that's why they got the license. But it's been flouted. And this is where, as we were talking when we were doing the about the radium girls in the United States, this is the same kind of monopoly situation that causes problems in the 1920s, and it's still causing problems for us today that we haven't got an independent voice, with the exception of perhaps the Irish Catholic Times, and the Alive magazine, that's a free newspaper given into churches in various places, and they stand for decency. And then you have the pro-life organisation, and you have the Life Institute, and one or two more, Precious Life in the North, supporting life from conception to natural death. But that voice is not heard as much as it should be. But there was a good sign there a while ago when the media and all this left leaning media and all supporting what they were proposing by way of items that were going to affect the family. And the people voted no. So people were beginning to wake up to what this crowd would like to inflict. And I think, have we got sort of an independent voice in the overall media to sort of refer to this? I'm afraid we haven't. More is the pity. But it takes the like of Christian TV, if we get established with sufficient donations, we certainly will stand up for truth and for, we'll call this particular government and the ones before it to account for what they've inflicted on people. And they brought in a hate speech there recently, or a hate speech bill, which there's no need for. There's enough regulations there to deal with people that, but this means, according to experts, rather people that's on that want to be able to express their opinion without being arrested, that this could interfere with free speech. So this is what this government is up to, and now they're going for election, and they expect the Irish people to vote for them again. And because we're saddled with all this left-leaning media, without an independent voice, with except the few that I just mentioned, and ourselves, Christian TV Ireland, .ie, we don't support what this government has inflicted on people. Aside from your financial situation, that might benefit us in some ways, you can't buy people that way either. And promising this, that, and the other as kind of to get elected. You want people to have principles and to stand up for life from conception to natural death. When they don't do that, what's the point of voting for them? I mentioned the parties that are there yesterday when we were talking. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Labour, and I forgot to mention Sinn Féin. They're not pro-life or anything like that. So we're really limited as to know who we can vote for if this election called. And because we haven't got a media that's half and half, if you like.
I
If people on the left support socialist type of policies, well, that's their business, and others might support something different, a kind of a
so
centre party, that is good for the country, for the Irish people. They don't seem to be that good for the Irish people, according to some spokespeople, that they've allowed too many people from other jurisdictions and from outside the EU to come into the country without any kind of even having any identification on them. Yeah, it's a very peculiar thing. I don't think there's any other country in the world that would allow people of that caliber to come in.
okay. So
And they all seem to want to come to either Britain or Ireland, whatever is wrong with them. I mean, there's other countries in the EU. Why don't they go there?
you have
Because the
mentioned
reason to go there is that they won't be treated so well.
John Malone. You have mentioned there Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin, the Greens. You wouldn't vote for them. What about
No.
Aontu?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, I hope they have some candidates going. They're pro-life and have policies that are that one can support. Policies that cover the outside of things that one believes in, which is the right to life and the price of housing to be reasonable. You were mentioned there yesterday with the fact that the war might end now with President Trump becoming president. I believe in an interview there he sent a message to President Putin already. Like this, it's a good omen, and we hope that it will lead to the end of that war and there'll be some concessions and so on and so forth. Because President Trump has convictions, as you mentioned there yesterday when we were doing the program, congratulating him on his win. So we need a government of that caliber here, that's for the good and not this confusion that we don't know what to stand for. With what they have there now, I don't know what to stand for. If to stand for anything, so
The
this is
thing,
what we have to kind
the
of consider.
the thing about Aontu is they've actually been very quiet. If they want any chance of getting elected at all, they'd want to start talking up.
Well, they probably are doing it, but who's going to report it?
Then now you're talking. Who's going to
Exactly
report
who?
it? There's the problem.
Who's going to give them so this is a party you can vote for. Is the media that we're saddled with in the RTE, are they going to support that? They're willing their hat because they're getting a license fee from this government, so they're told what to do and how to do it. And that's the way it is there. When you get money from this crowd, you're in their pocket and you've got to jump whatever way they decide. So you're not getting an independent voice. Now, the Christian TV Ireland, we wouldn't take a brass farthing from them. I've sent it back to them pronto if they ever try to do anything like that, because then you're in the pocket. It's donations that will have it strengthen us, the same as EWTN. But we'd be more focused on what's good for the overall human being. Mm, EWTN, it's hard to make out sometimes what they stand for in some ways, with whatever way they're run nowadays. They don't focus as strong on what we try to focus on with our program since we've been doing them since 2015. We've stood up for Irish values and for the fact that of the great potential Irish people have in very many areas, and they want family business to succeed. They want them to have a fair crack at the whip. They don't want this monopoly situation here. And all that kind of thing. So we'll stand for that. And when the Christian TV gets going, we'll be supporting anything that's pro-life, anything that gives the employment to Irish people in various occupations. I notice in a lot of occupations there are people from other jurisdictions whose command of English is nearly zilch, and they're in hotels and receptions and all the rest of it, and here, there, and yonder, they're in hospitals. I just find it very hard to figure out all this, and I put it down to this government that hasn't got a proper policy for Irish people.
That's it. So, I suppose, look, if people want change, they're going to have to bring about change. But it looks as if the usual election spin is um is very much on the cards at the moment, you know. And there's been politicians accusing Simon Harris and a few more of them of buying the election. And sure, that happens every time. But what you were saying there earlier on, well, about the radium girls we were talking about in the previous video, every generation there's always lies, but the truth always sets them free in the end, you know?
That's right.
And
That's
it's a very
right.
important thing.
Uh, yeah, but I think, let's face it, we know what's good for people. Common sense and experience of life, it tells us what's good for people and for what's good for their welfare and their overall confidence in the system. Now, unfortunately, because of the media being so left, that there isn't a balance there, except with the exception of the papers I mentioned, and people are not getting the real truth, and so therefore they can be hoodwinked, and that's not good. I mean, that's bad. We need a balanced kind of approach. You mentioned Aontu, and the reason they're not being hearing much about them is because they're not being published, but other people will hear about it, and so on and so forth. And I hope people will vote for them, and people of that caliber that's pro-life and pro-family and pro-decency, and for things to sort of be more apparently good. There's so much kind of there's so much, what do they call it, diversions, or this multicultural business. I mean, I can't figure that out for this country. We didn't, we're in a colonial country. All we did was send missionaries. And looking up, we did, because they're here now, and it was for them to be a lot of churches closed. When I did a Malone Mass there on last Saturday, it was a man, a Chinese priest. And I asked him, was he from Taiwan or the mainland? He was from the mainland. It was command of English wasn't great, but he was able to give the sermon, because it would be, he'd have it written down, and he was able to do that. But if you were talking to when I was talking to him, because I was doing the reading for the Malones and giving out all their names. There were 11 or 12 of them. and the Holy Mass offered up for the happy repose of their souls and light of heaven, all this. And then there was other ones. So, but you don't kind of hear that kind of expression nowadays. You just don't hear it, and it's all gone. Even the Catholic faith, which was a very strong influence in this country in my time, has been allowed to sort of by the people in charge for some reason or other not to be a voice to be heard. They seem to have taken a vow of silence. The bishop could join a monastery for all that we hear about what they do. I don't hear them pontificate, saying about Anta. And like I don't know what they're afraid of. Because certainly I'm not afraid. Christian TV Ireland won't be afraid when we get established with donations. We speak the truth as we see it, and for the good of all, not just for this kind of filter stuff that we're getting.
I think, when you look at we were talking about there about the media, you were saying about it's very left-leaning, and we can see there with the Trump election. I mean, it really highlights how left the media are in Ireland. Every newspaper you buy was anti-Trump, and then, of course, the lefties are so surprised when Trump actually wins because they're shocked because they're being brainwashed all over the world, not just in Ireland. The media seems to be bought up by left-leaning business people. How this has come
You're right,
about
you're
all
right.
over the world, I've no idea, but it has very much so. So what I'm trying to get
It
at here,
doesn't make sense, does it?
what I'm trying to get at here is that Simon Harris, Micheál Martin, the Greens, they could be in for a nasty shock in the election. They might think they're on the pig's back because they're only pandering to the left-leaning people.
Well,
But
you see, we're not getting this balanced view, and I mean, obviously you wanted Harris, who wouldn't respect anybody, and would kill as many as she could, and all this type of thing. She had a crazy person in many ways. And but the people saw, and President Trump tried to assassinate him there a couple of times, but he nearly was assassinated, but just fell on the roof. And only for he turned his head, he got grazed on the side of his face. Only for he had turned his head, otherwise he would have been killed. So God looked after him. And I mentioned there when we were doing the congratulations for him there yesterday that I think he might become a Catholic because he's a Catholic running mate called JP. And I was just wondering, was he perhaps John Patrick? We hope we find out what the JP stands for. And President Trump is Donald J. Trump, and I was hoping that his second name was John, and he should be using that. I mean, when I'm doing my videos, I refer to myself as John Augustine because that was what I was christened. That's on my birth picture certificate and my birth certificate. John Augustine. I don't know where they got the Augustine from, but I like that's a very Christian type of name and brings you good, I think. But
when I
I'm
think when I think of
young.
Augustine, I think of the monasteries, the Irish
Correct.
monasteries.
And Saint Augustine, of course, was a doctor of the church, and he led a life that left a bit to be desired. But his mother Monica prayed for him to be converted, and he was. By Ambrose, I think Saint Ambrose. It's a story, but because I had a book there, the City of God, that some fellow called Balthazar wrote about St. Augustine. His writings and his confessions are very good because he went astray, but his mother prayed and he was converted. And then he went on to be a great Catholic, the same as St. Paul in the Gospels. He was a persecutor, Saul, and he was converted on the road to Damascus when he fell off his horse and Jesus spoke and said, "Why you persecute me?" And went blind, and he had to be led into Damascus. And one of the Catholics at the time was told to go and heal him. And he mentioned that he was there to persecute, so he went and cured him. But he was a great apostle after he was converted. So, like, this is the great thing about like having a voice for people that don't support what the media comes out with and this negativity and this anti-Trump business. We certainly weren't anti-Trump even before when he was president. but he was pilloried, and we know he was. And even when he was going for it there, the course and with the instructions of the Democrats, so they have a lot to answer for. They can yap until they're blue in the face, but people don't now believe them. And President Trump hopefully will have stability in that country because there was none of it. It was a very dangerous time in it. And lucky enough, he was elected in spite of the media being anti him. He was elected in spite of them, and so was other Republicans. So they're going to control the Senate and the House of Representatives. So people are not stupid. They're not stupid here either. They had to come through rough times here in this country, a lot of unemployment and all the rest of it. In my time, there was even an unemployment candidate called Murphy. I helped him with his envelopes one time, years back. It was maybe about 20 or whatever it was. And he was an unemployment candidate, but he was bought off by I think, De Valera and given a lump of money and wound up in Canada. So we'd love to know the background to that story. That's going back now to the when there was unemployment. There was 20% unemployment in this country in my time.
Well, John
But
Malone,
yeah,
you'll have to get on your
well,
voting boots.
I will, and but we'll be supporting Aontu, and we'll be supporting any pro-life candidates that's going forward. I'm lucky in Mead West. Padder Tobin is the candidate there, and he'll be certainly getting number one. And there might be another pro-life one on as well. And whatever it is, they'll be getting votes as well. And if they get enough number ones, then they maybe go forward. But I certainly won't do none of the other ones that be getting a vote for me in a fit. No matter who they are.
Very good. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver. Surely, boy.